Hello everyone, welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name is Amanda. In today's video, we are going to do a firework display inspired set of nails using nail foils. So I really hope you all enjoy watching. First up, happy Halloween. I do hope you all have a fun yet spooky evening. Now for this set of nails, I am working on some press-on nails that I have already applied to my own nails. So if you was to do this set on the natural nails, you would need to come in and do your prep and base coat to begin with. I've basically just done that step off camera, but I will leave a video linked in the description box below which shows my prep and base coat application. Now for this set, we're going to be using Royalty, which is a gorgeous kind of like deep rich purple. We've got our foils and our foil gels, and then I've got my brushes to hand as well. As always, I'll leave all the products I've used listed in the description box below, but if you do have any questions on the products, then do pop a comment in the comment section and I'll be happy to help. So I had buffed these tips to remove the shine, so I was just wiping over them with an alcohol pad to make sure that they are completely clean and free of dust before we go in and start applying our first coat of Royalty. Now in one coat, Royalty kind of has a bit of a jelly effect, which I absolutely love because it makes this quite a fun and versatile color. And when I was looking through my colors that I wanted to use for this design, I felt as though this would be perfect because it has that bit of a jelly effect to it, and I basically want to create kind of like an ombre effect with my foils, but the foils are slightly hidden under a coat of Royalty. So I'm applying my first coat to begin with. Now if you are using this just as a solid color, once you do come in with your second coat, you will lose that jelly effect and it will look fully opaque, so it won't basically look as sheer as this in two coats, but it does make it a really fun color when you are playing around with nail art. So I'm going to apply one coat of this, and then once I'm happy with my first coat applied, I'm going to pop this in to cure for 30 seconds. Now I have my round nail art brush to hand with some alcohol to clean up around those cuticle areas. If you do happen to get any products on your skin or cuticles, you want to wipe it away immediately using some alcohol. You definitely want to do it before popping it in to cure, as it's a lot harder to remove once it has been cured. Now, depending on the design you are doing, you could come in and apply a second coat of this. But as I mentioned, I want to have my foil ombre kind of hidden between the layers of Royalty. So I did mess up my application there, as you see. I sometimes find it really tricky to get a good angle for filming and applying products. I did quickly want to mention the stripe liner brush. I find this amazing, especially when you are using darker colors. They are obviously going to show up any imperfections a lot more. And if you want that nice, neat cuticle line, the stripe liner brush really helps you achieve this. You'll see, especially when I'm working on my little finger here, I have teeny tiny nail beds on my little fingers. I find it really tricky to get a neat application on my little fingers with the bottle brush, so I'll go fairly close with the bottle brush, but I'll do a lot of that cuticle application with the stripe liner brush. If you are going to buy one brush, this is the brush I highly recommend. I could not be without this brush, whether it be for just regular application like we're doing today, or nail art, creating intricate designs. It's just my go-to brush. So there we have our first coat of Royalty applied. I really love this color. It's like a really rich plum shade. It's just so beautiful, and it's not one that I reach for very often, but I feel as though it's a color that's perfect for late autumn. It's definitely kind of like a November shade. Then we have our foils. Now all of the Kiki foil boxes contain 12 foils, so I wanted to kind of replicate like a firework display kind of image. I wanted to get those vibes, and I felt as though this foil would be perfect for that. So I picked out this one. I was going to do a mix of different foils, but I felt as though the design might look a little bit messy. I felt as though using one would look a little bit more cohesive. Now to apply your foils, you are going to need a foil gel. So I cut out 4 pieces of that foil, and then I'm going to apply my foil gel just to the tips of the nail. I'm really sorry that the first nail is out of focus. The camera does go back into focus here, but I'm just applying a thin coat of this to just where I want my foils to be. So I don't want my foils to stick at all up in that cuticle nail bed area. So I'm just going to to apply my foil gel from roughly the free edge of my natural nail down towards the tip of the nail, making sure it has fully coated that tip of the nail, getting around those side walls especially, because you want to make sure that you are fully covering this part of the nail. Now if you feel as though your foils might still stick to that nail bed area, you can wipe over with some alcohol to remove the tacky inhibition layer from the gel polish to begin with, but I don't really find that necessary for this particular design. So I popped my foil gel in to cure for 30 seconds. I'm then going to place my foil down over the top of that foil gel, and I'm giving it a really good rub to begin with my thumb and fingers, just to make sure it's stuck down into that foil gel. And then I'm going to switch to using my silicone tool. I feel as though the silicone tool is a lot gentler on the foil, so you can rub with a little bit more pressure without kind of worrying that you're going to sort of like pull off the foil. And then this also really helps get out any creases that you've got, especially when you're working over a built nail. Now by built nail, I mean if you've sculpted a set of nails, or you've built a long set of maybe acrylics, builder gel, sculpting gel, whichever product you're using. Same with these press-on nail tips, we've got that apex, that arch and curve to the nail. Now when you're applying foils over that curved surface, you're going to get some creases in them. Now it's just really important, if you take a few seconds with your silicone tool, you're going to be able to rub those creases out, and then you're going to get a nice full coverage foil effect. So we're going to repeat that step on all of the nails. So I always start off pressing down with my thumb and fingers, just so I know that that foil has good contact with the foil gel. Then I'm going to switch to my silicone tool, ease out those creases, and then pull the foil off. Now I like to pull the foil off fairly slowly, especially not so much with these foils, but with more patterned foils. If you pull the foil off slowly, if there are any areas that haven't fully transferred, you're going to be able to lay that foil down because you've not fully removed it, and just give it another rub, go over again with your silicone tool, and then you're going to get that full foil coverage. With these kind of metallic foils, they are probably the most easiest to apply compared to foils where you've got like a clear sheet and a pattern or picture printed onto. They are a little bit more tricky. I have got lots of videos up on the channel using different Kiki foils, so you will see there are tips and tricks on how I work with those. But if you are a beginner to nail foils, I highly recommend these metallic style foils because they are so simple to apply. Once I have pulled them off, I do just tap around any areas where there might be little gaps or little pieces of foil missing. This is going to then just perfect that effect. With these particular foils as well, you can pat and press them on to create different effects. So now I wanted to kind of create a little bit more of an ombre effect with the royalty and the foils. So I'm coming back in with royalty, and I'm just trying to apply this just to that nail bed area where the foil ends, and then I'm going to gently blend it over the foil pattern. Now because it's got that jelly effect, it's only going to cover the foil slightly. You're still going to see the holographic and the different colors that are in these particular foils, that kind of shattered effect that they have. Now you could do this with more of an opaque shade if you wanted. It's going to depend on the look you want. I did still want to be able to see the foil kind of like through this second coat, but if you wanted to create a bit more of a classic ombre, then you could either come in with a second coat of this, which I do show on one of the nails, or you could reach for a more opaque shade. Now originally for this set of nails I was going to do like a navy blue, because I felt as though that would replicate the night sky a little bit more, but I felt as though that would just look a little bit too wintry, and I really wanted the autumn vibes to come through on this set. So I really loved how this color combination turned out, especially with these particular foils. They have a pinky purple tone into them in certain areas as well, so I felt as though it matched up quite nicely with this color. So when you are applying your royalty, you just got to remember you don't need a lot on your brush for this step. We're only wanting to cover that nail bed area, and we don't want to pull too much down either. That's why I'm doing this step with the ombre brush, because with the ombre brush, if you just use the very tip of it, you can get a really light feathery motion going on, and this just allows you to pull a small amount of that gel polish down so you get a nice subtle blend, because like I said, we don't want to cover up too much of the foil. We want those beautiful holographic effects to come through. If you don't have an ombre brush, you could should do this step with any small nail art brush. You just want to make sure that you're only using the very tip of that brush and you're using a really light touch, because if you go in with a too heavy touch, you're going to pull too much of that gel polish down. And this is why it's also important not to go in with too much at that nail bed area, because you don't want to have to kind of like chase that gel polish around the nail with nowhere for it to go. Now I've done that, we're going to pop that in to cure, that coat in to cure for 30 seconds. This now here, the pointer finger, I'd used a bit more of the pink foil on this nail. So when I cut out the foil, the bottom part was a bit brighter than the rest. So I thought this would be a good one to demonstrate just coming in with a second coat. So exactly the same as how we applied, a third coat, exactly the same as how we applied our second coat, which would have been our first coat of the ombre. I'm going to just repeat that step, and it's going to give you a little bit more coverage. It's not necessarily going to make royalty look any darker. You won't really notice a massive difference between this nail and the others. I just wanted to show you guys you could make that ombre look a little bit more darker if you wanted to, if you was using a shade that's a little bit more sheer like this one. And this is why you should always work in thin coats with your gel polish as well, especially when you're playing around with nail art. So if you do need to for any reason come in with another layer, you can. So I only did that on the pointer finger just to kind of demonstrate that the option is there if you want to create a bit more of a blended effect. Now, one of the reasons why I wasn't too stressed about having the perfect blend between the colour and the foils on this set is my plan was to come over with some of the 24K gold flakes. Now, this is a top coat, so it's a clear no wipe top coat, but then you have these stunning gold flakes embedded into the top coat. Now, I don't want to apply this over the entire nail, so I'm not necessarily using it as a top coat. I just wanted to apply this over the foils because I kind of wanted to create that effect of, you know, like when a firework goes off and then the colours disappear and you just get those little dots twinkling down. I kind of wanted to create that. In my mind, it worked. It's a little bit different, but I've really had fun doing this set of nails and I loved how they turned out. So I'm just applying this over the foils, and then I'm going to take my ombre brush and just blend the flakes back a little bit, just so there's a few scattering around over that blend area. You can also at this step move your flakes around if you want to, if you've got too many in one area. I applied a super thin coat of these, so if there was any areas where the gold flakes were a little bit bunched up, I'm just gonna nudge them around until I'm happy with how they are before popping in to cure. Now, you could apply this to the entire nail if you wanted to, and then you wouldn't need to go in with a separate top coat, but because I was just applying it over a portion of the nail, we're going to need to seal the entire design in with a top coat. So I opted for the no wipe rubber top coat, just simply because there was a little bit unevenness where that gold flake top coat is going to end. So the rubber top coat is that little bit thicker. It's going to encapsulate everything in and give us a super smooth finish. I also highly recommend the rubber top coat if you are applying foils, especially the more trickier foils, the patterned foils, or if you're doing like a full cover foil nail. Sometimes the foils can be a little bit tricky, cause your design to have chipping issues or the foils chipping off from the gel polish. I find if I encapsulate foils in with the no wipe rubber top coat, I have absolutely no problems, just because it's that little bit thicker. It seals everything in beautifully, and then it's also great because it's adding additional strength to the nails as well. Now, the no wipe rubber top coat does require a 60-second cure, so we've cured that for 60 seconds, and then this was the finished result. I was tempted to stamp on like some little stars, but I thought that would take away a little bit from the firework design that I had in my mind. We are going to finish off though with some cuticle oil, so I'm just going to apply this to the cuticles. I'm using the Coconut Escape one today, which in these colder days does give you a nice hint of warmer weather. It kind of just reminds you of those hot summer days. So I did give this a good rub in, and then that was the finished set. I really hope you all enjoy watching. If you have any other designs you would like to see for November, or any other designs before we jump into Christmas nails, do let me know in the comments below and I'll be happy to give them a go. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all so much for watching. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.